Now, bringing you the very best in New Hampshire-based local music on IPMNation.com and 100.1 The Planet, this is Local Outbreak.
On the stairs, passed through me like a ghost. My voice faded off in the night. She took a flight to the coast. On the wall, left her coat on the chair. I can't be blamed for everything except my 1,000-yard stare.
That is Bobbo Byrnes. The track is Too Many Miles. It's the title track from the album Too Many Miles, and he's also the author of the book Too Many Miles on the Road with an Unofficial Rock and Roll Goodwill Ambassador. And let's see, we've got Bobbo Byrnes with us via Microsoft Teams. Bobbo, are you there?
I am here. I've woken up early. I'm on the show.
Yes, very good. What time zone are you in? Where are you exactly?
I'm in California.
Oh, California. Oh, so you did wake up early for us. We appreciate that.
Yeah. I even took a shower. I was like, I don't know if this video. Oh, wait, what?
No need to shower, but we do appreciate the effort. That is excellent. Hey, I have to ask you too before we get into anything else, like really important. Just the name Bobbo. Obviously, Bob is usually short for Robert. Is Bobbo also short for Robert, or why are you called Bobbo?
I am called Bobbo because when I was born, there were a bunch of Bobbies in my family.
Oh.
And my grandfather called me Bobbo instead of Bobby.
Oh, okay.
And so I've been Bobbo since I was like 3 years old.
Yeah, no, I like it. And that's cool too. Anyway, like as a musician, having an unusual name like that, that way you're not competing with anybody else for the name. That's great.
Nobody's going to confuse me with the Scottish poet Robert Burns.
Right, exactly. I want to.
Bobby Burns' pub on the Cape.
Oh, there you go. So I want to ask you about that song first, Too Many Miles. And I love the album. I did listen to the whole thing. It's on your website.
Thank you.
The song is great. I love your voice. I'm curious too. Now, who's playing guitar in that? Is that you?
Yes.
Oh my God. I love the solo in that.
Thank you so much.
The guitar work in that is really good. And then who's the female vocalist who shows up kind of partway through the song?
That is my wife, Tracy. She also plays bass.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Excellent. No, that's a great track. Of course, the title track from the album, Too Many Miles. And I assume the album is entitled to sort of accompany the book, right? I mean, obviously they have the same title. I assume they kind of go together. Is the album designed in terms of the sequencing of the songs and everything? Is it designed to sort of tell the story, obviously with songs, tell the story of the book?
Yes. I talk about certain songs in the book and it all sort of flows together at the same time. Yeah.
And I'm really curious about putting this book together because obviously, to go back and, you're looking at more than 20 years of tour journals and emails and social media posts and all of this stuff. And it's funny. It reminds me of a conversation I had with Sean McCarthy, who's a singer-songwriter from this area who recently did a documentary about his career and kind of a similar thing where I just marvel at anyone who can go back and find all this stuff. And I assume, have you always been someone who takes meticulous records of everything and saves everything? Because if you hadn't done that, for example, not everyone bothers to have a tour journal. Maybe everyone should because it's, you want to document that experience. But have you always been, like all your life, have you been someone who keeps track of everything, keeps records of everything?
Yes and no. I keep records of certain things. I am terrible with notes on other things, but I remember reading Kerouac when I was going to UMass Lowell, and the next weekend I decided to hitchhike to Burlington, Vermont.
Oh wow!
And on the ride home, I was like, I need to start writing things because I want to live a sort of life that I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
So my first tour journal was written in the White River Junction bus station.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, were you, as you were doing that, did you, obviously Kerouac inspired you. That's really cool. Did you intend to maybe someday, were you just doing it to do it at the time, or did you think maybe someday this will help you to construct something if you wanted to write a book or do a documentary or whatever it is? Did you have some future purpose in mind even then?
I can't say that it was like a grand design, but it was a bit of sky of like, okay, Kerouac traveled around and told all these stories, and from all accounts was a pretty terrible house guest. And I thought I could sort of design a life that did something very similar, but with a guitar.
Yeah.
And maybe I could be like a better house guest than him.
I do know that about Kerouac. Yes. Are you now? So you're in California now, but you're from here originally?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm from Billerica, Massachusetts.
Billerica. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Very good. Now, how long have you lived in? Sorry. Go ahead.
Playing in Manchester as well.
Oh, really?
I was just going to say, I remember playing in Manchester with my old band, Gypsy Mechanics. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
I'm playing in, is it Greeley Park there as well?
I don't know Greeley Park.
Greeley or Veterans Park, something like that.
Veterans Park. Yes. Veterans Park. Yep.
Yeah, I remember doing something and I don't remember the name of the radio station at the time, but yeah.
Oh, very cool. Excellent.
Manch Vegas. I'm aware.
How long have you lived in California?
I've lived here for 25 years now.
Oh my God. I bet you like the winters better there.
You miss a snowy day, but I don't miss driving in snow.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you a bit. So what was, the process of then going back through everything to write this book? I mean, how was that? Was that daunting? Was that fun?
It was incredibly daunting.
Yeah.
I had all these different things, snippets in notebooks from before I had computers, and I had, written tour journals and tour diaries on the road, and sometimes I wrote them, just riddled with spelling errors and things like that. And I would post them online from time to time. And I had a buddy that, my buddy Boris, I took a whole bunch of them and sent them in a PDF to me one time. And he's like, I think you should keep these. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And so you just start shifting through and going through all the different things. And when I finally got it in one Word document, it was like over 3,000 pages long.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. So
no, go ahead.
It became okay, and I can chop away quite a bit, not, there's fun stories that didn't make the book, but it seemed to not suit the arc of the story that I was trying to tell.
How long was the process of going through everything and figuring out what was going to go in the book? Because again, you said, did I hear you correctly? You said it was over 3,000 pages of documentation to go through?
It was just shy of 300 pages. Yeah.
Jesus, that's wow. I mean, how long did that process take?
It took me a year to edit it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was also working with a couple of editors as well that were helping me and be like, okay, you're using two different types of quotation marks. I'm like, how am I doing that? I don't even know how to do that. And, and like, oh, and you're jumping back and forth from present to past tense. I'm like, well, that's what happens when you write something today about yesterday.
Right. Right. What was the process? I mean, was it more involved than you thought it was going to be? I mean, because I would imagine
much more.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you'll hear people say, "Oh, I'm going to write a book someday," right? And then they either never do or they try and then they give up. I mean, was there ever a point where you thought, "Oh, this is too much. I've bitten off more than I can chew here"?
No,
that's good.
No, I was kind of, and part of that was my wife was you need to finish this, and I was like, okay. I will say that I believe that the second most annoying phrase in the English language is when someone says, "I'm working on my book."
Right.
Yeah. So my friends were exhausted of me. I'm like, I'm sorry.
But so your wife Tracy, she kind of kept you on track and helped motivate you and keep you going.
she did quite a bit, and we ended up doing storyboard things of all the different chapters and on yellow post-it notes and on a board, and where does everything fit in and how does it go and how is the flow. So she was very instrumental in helping it.
Okay, excellent. Now, had you written anything before? Had you written a book before at all, or even attempted it, or is this your first one?
Well, I've been a writer for most of my life.
Yeah.
And so it's just a longer version of that, really.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
How did you decide what stories to include? Because you mentioned there were some fun stories that didn't make it in. I mean, what was that a difficult process making those decisions? I mean, there's a lot in the book. I mean, it's an easy read in the sense that your writing style, it's very easy, very engaging. But there is a lot in there too.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Was it hard making those decisions, or did you ever feel at any point like, oh, that story I left out, maybe I should have put that in, or I mean, what was that process like?
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, there's a hockey chapter in there that I rewrote like 4 or 5 times, maybe even more.
Yeah.
And I kept trying to make it shorter, and every attempt to make it shorter made it longer.
Really?
And and I still cut a bunch out of that. And to say, you're a musician talking about hockey, and I'm like, yeah, but hockey informed how I embrace change and how to move on and how to. And it was an important chapter to fit in. Yeah, there was definitely things that I left out, and once the decision was made to sort of move past that, I tried not to look back. And speaking of Kerouac again, I remember when On the Road came out. Oh, I wasn't alive, but I remember reading about it.
Yeah,
and how he really pissed off a lot of people because he told their stories without. He changed the names, but everybody could figure out who he was talking about.
Right.
And I did extensive work with everyone that I mentioned in the book, which is, hundreds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, this is the story I'm telling. Does my story line up with your memory of is it accurate? And that was one of the best parts of the book, because to me anyway, because I had people saying, oh yeah, and remember this? And so they would add to it. And sometimes I put their footnotes in as well.
Mm-hmm.
And only a couple of stories that I have where I shared it with somebody and they said, you know what? I feel like I'm existing in the story just as a punchline. And I'm like, oh, I didn't mean that. And so I just chopped that part out. I'm like, I don't need to, I wrote the book. I don't really need to be the hero or the,
right.
Whatever.
And I'm sure. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, and I had one other person say, I don't see myself in this at all. This doesn't look familiar to me. And so that was a fun chapter that had a lot of, famous sort of rock and roll name drops. And I chopped it all together, and my editors were pissed at me. They're like, you got to leave that story, and you got to leave. I'm like, no, it doesn't line up. And I got to stay true to that.
I'm sure as an author too, it makes you feel better about the book, right? To know that you've gone through that process of kind of checking with people, having them corroborate what you've written. I would imagine I would have anxiety over that, because I would be thinking, well, because memory can be so very subjective, and you know what they say, there's 2 sides to every story, yours, mine, and the truth, and so I would have anxiety over going through that process. But it sounds like for you, that was definitely the right thing to do, and it worked out well.
Yeah, it made me be able to release it with a clear conscience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't check 100% with every single person ever, because, well, there are some people that I don't talk to anymore, and
Right.
There's a reason for that.
Right, right, of course. Of course.
But, yeah, that's the way it goes.
You said
if they have an issue with it, they can take it up with me.
Right. You said something interesting about the role that hockey has played in your life, and in the book you talk about how, you had loved to play hockey, but at a certain point, it was after you got hit, by a car, or was it a car or a bus? I forget now.
It was a bus.
It was a bus. How after that, and you're trying to come back from that and get back into what you love to do. And one of the things you love to do is playing hockey, but you had to kind of accept the fact that you just couldn't physically do it at a certain point. And I'm curious about if you can talk a little bit about that, about how that is it that moment specifically that kind of helped you to deal with change, or was it more? Is there something about the game of hockey itself and some of the philosophy of it maybe that helped you?
Certainly. It's a strange thing to say that, especially at 54 years old, to say when I was 17, getting cut from my high school hockey team was the best and worst thing that could ever happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that happened very early on. And what I took from it, at the time, I was a stand-up goalie, and everyone was becoming butterfly-style goalies. And I wouldn't adapt. I was like, no, this is what I am. And getting cut from the team. And then years later, all of a sudden realizing, oh, it's because of your inability to change. And you're not accepting change, not adapting to a changing sport.
Okay.
And I never wanted to be a person that was so closed off to change. And, you can say, my favorite book is Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, which is a heavy read.
Okay.
But Octavia Butler says God is change. And it's not worshiping change, but essentially saying, the only constant in life is change.
Mm-hmm.
And you either adapt or you get left behind.
Right.
And so a few years after, high school, I got back in the net and I kept playing and I changed how I played. And I was able to find the fun in it again. The change that happened later was, when I was riding my bicycle in Huntington Beach and I got T-boned by an OCTA bus, launched 10 feet in the air.
Oh, my God.
And requiring knee surgery and all this other stuff. But at the same time, I got hit by a bus and away from it. And that doesn't happen either.
Right.
And so you have to look at these things. How do I take this and move forward? And I got a settlement of like $15,000 because the police wrote up the accident report wrong and said that I hit the side of the bus. So I was found half at fault.
Really?
Ridiculous shit like that. I'm sorry. Yeah. And so my wife and I were like, we got $15,000. What should we do? And I was like, if my hockey playing career is over because of this, let's build some kind of memory out of it.
Right.
And so we booked a 3-month-long tour of Europe, and then starting playing over there, and that grew into being signed to a German label and being played on German radio stations, and then doing 15 tours of Europe after that.
Oh, wow. So that's really interesting. So I mean, here you are, the singer-songwriter, you grew up in Billerica, right? And then you're, yep. Next thing you know, so you're having all this success in Europe. That's really interesting. So why do you think that happened? What was happening where you were able to tour over there and build this big following and have all this success? I mean, what is it that clicked for you in Europe, do you think?
I will say that there's something interesting about Europe, and I will say specifically about Germany that is really refreshing to watch, and it's a huge appreciation for art. And I'm not just saying just music, but really all art. And you can go to Germany, and like in Berlin, there's the Berlin Wall exhibit. There's an art exhibit there that grows wheat and barley. Mm-hmm. And the art exhibit says, where food grows, hope grows. Mm. And, if you take that, a field of barley and put it somewhere else and say, this is an art exhibit, people, no, that's just a field of barley. But in Germany, they're like, no, this is art. Yeah. And there's an embracement of like, if somebody says something is art and they're doing a deliberate thing. I went there and I'm like, here's my songs. I'm this American guy, and I went there with a very, to say, open heart is probably the best way I can explain it. I didn't go there to be like, I'm an American, I'm going to tell you how everything is. I went there to learn.
Right.
And, and them realizing I was there to not just preach to them, but from them, opened up all kinds of houses and stories. And that's really what the book, is about is, the guitar opened the door, but my openness and listening is what made me stay welcome.
That makes sense. Is that why because I know you like to call yourself an unofficial rock and roll goodwill ambassador. Is that where that comes from?
That actually came a word from a interview I was doing in 2016, where a radio there asked me if I considered myself a goodwill ambassador going to Germany.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, well, I hadn't until you said that, but yeah, I sort of, and after that, I had it said to me a number of times with people saying, you're a great goodwill ambassador for the United States. And I was like, that's heavy. It's a heavy title to have put on you.
Right.
So that's why I made it the unofficial.
Can you tell us too about, the chapter, and by the way, this is one of the chapters that you recommended, that I pay special attention to, Massachusetts. And we also have the song. I have the song too, because at the end of our conversation, I'm going to play that song, but I wanted to ask you about this because it's kind of I feel like it's the emotional centerpiece. Tell
That's accurate.
Tell us about the chapter of Massachusetts.
Okay. Been writing songs my whole life. I've written hundreds of songs. And one day I was just in the kitchen with Tracy, and I started strumming and singing "Tie Your Troubles Across My Shoulders and Wrap Your Arms Around This Old Heart of Mine." And as I sang it, she turned to me and said, "What's that?" And I'm like, "I think it's a new song. Is it any good?" And she says, "Well, it's a good start." And like anybody else who creates anything, somebody encouraging what you're doing is often the best thing that you can be given. Is like, okay, I have a seed here. Let's see where it goes. Mm-hmm. And went in the other room, and as I was starting to sing and strum, we'd been living in California for a bit, and my memories went back to driving across Iowa with my best friend Jeff, where we were cranking Boston's More Than a Feeling. And just laughing and laughing and laughing, and then getting on the plane after the wedding we went to, and he's still drunk, and I can't swear on this radio station, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, he's mispronouncing Massachusetts, where the last part of Massachusetts sounds like Dookie.
Okay.
Okay. So that's how he's pronouncing Massachusetts.
Gotcha.
We're going home to Massachusetts. Yeah.
Right.
And we're just laughing hysterically. And 2 weeks later, my buddy Jeff passed away in a freak accident where he fell down a flight of stairs in the middle of the night. He was walking into a bathroom and actually opened up the basement stairs. And yeah. And probably the impetus to Tracy and I moving across country, because I was sort of spinning after that. Mm-hmm. And, we get out here and, I'm sort of thinking about Jeff and thinking about this and thinking about, times in college and thinking about Tracy and I growing up and, all the records that we left behind when we left Massachusetts and how we traded them all in for a new dream. And that sort of reminded me of like the Bob Dylan song, "It's All Over Now, Baby Blue," and about ditching everything that you leave for, a future. And the song existed for quite a while in that form. And in 2016, I was home visiting my parents because my dad was at the end of his fight with Lewy body dementia.
Okay.
And as we were sitting at the kitchen table with him, one day he turns and looks at me, and he would only have a couple of lucid moments a day. And in the moment, he turned to me and said, 2 things I'll always be proud of. 1, becoming your father, and 2, you becoming a successful writer and musician.
Wow.
And then he drifted off. And those are the last words my dad said to me.
Oh my God. Wow.
And so, shortly after that, he wasn't getting out of bed, and we knew that he was near the end. And my mom said, why don't you go play guitar for your dad? And so I went in the bedroom, and I had my guitar, and I didn't know what to play. And my mom whispered, play Massachusetts. And so I started playing Massachusetts, and when I got to the chorus, my mother started singing my words to my dad of tie your troubles across my shoulders and wrap your arms around this old heart of mine. And it was one of those moments of, it's hard for me to even say it, just even tell the story right now without getting emotional.
Yeah.
My mother took my words and my art and used them to sing to my dad. And I have one life. That just happened.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Yeah. I've won.
Yeah. No, that's heavy. I also, and like I said, we're going to, at the end of our conversation, we're going to play that song, but
Sure. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, it's beautiful. I also want to ask you though, too, about the chapter, Are All These Stories True? And this one, this is not the story behind this isn't that old. Actually, just a couple of years ago, October 3rd, 2024, you were in Belgium during the last show of a difficult European tour, and you were exhausted. And can you tell us about this? Tell us about this chapter. This is really interesting.
Well, I decided that year that I wasn't going to rent a car, and I was going to use public transportation to get everywhere.
Yeah.
And it nearly destroyed me because usually trains and everything move very well throughout Europe, but there had been a lot of repairs need to be done, and there was flooding. And so I got stuck and I got stranded in a handful of train stations. And, one of them had been the Liège, Belgium train station, where they just made an announcement saying, we're running behind, so we're letting everybody off here. And I was trying to get to Brussels. And so I was just stuck in a train station for a couple hours waiting for another train. It was just weird things like that happened. And by the time I got to this little bar in Mechelen, Belgium, a place that I played a whole bunch of times, I was just out of energy. I was out of gas.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, some people show up that are fans of mine that are coming. It's a 275-year-old bar on a canal in Mechelen, Belgium. And to explain that even more clearly, taxi drivers in Mechelen don't know how to get there.
Wow. Huh.
I give the taxi drivers in the city I direct them how to get there.
Wow.
And they're like, "Are you sure? This was a bike path." And I'm like, "It's fine. Drive down the bike path."
Wow.
It's that remote, but it's been there 275 years, and people show up, and it's full on busker style with no PA, no microphones or anything like that. And it's one of my favorite places to play.
Yeah.
And I'll have a whole room just sitting there listening. And, a guy in the front row, I'm telling the stories and singing the songs. This guy just leans forward and he goes, "Are all these stories true?" I'm like, yeah, I couldn't make them up. That would take forever.
Right.
And I'm like, "What's your name?" He's like, "I'm Luke." I'm like, "Luke, you're now part of the story in the song." And so I put him in the next song that I sang. And he just sat there with this huge grin on his face. And afterwards, he says to me, "You made this decision, and it is to travel the world and play guitar. It is the best decision. I made the wrong decision years ago, and now it's too late." And you have to sort of carry that with you. You're like, holy crap, that's a heavy thing for someone to tell a stranger.
Yeah. Wow.
And so that's why I said, you're now part of my story, and I carry that forward with me, because that's really all my whole book is doing, is carrying stories forward.
Right. They all become part. Everyone you encounter ultimately becomes part of the story. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't remember where we're going with that. Was it?
Oh, there was something about. Didn't your mother? Was it? And I forget if was this part of that chapter. Your mom actually sent you a text asking you if this was all worth it.
Yeah, she sent me. So I was on the train from Mechelen back to Brussels, and as I sit down, text comes in. What country are you in? And I'm like, I'm just like, I'm on a midnight train to Brussels. And she says, is all this touring still worth it? And earlier that day, that would have been a different answer, but I just had an amazing show playing for about 75 people in this tiny little bar where everybody was singing along. I had the whole room, there's no TVs in the corner with the game on. Mm-hmm. All it is the bar and me.
Yeah.
And people were singing along, people were cheering, people were clapping. I went outside to take a break, and as I was outside, they started chanting my name. Mm. And you go back in, you hear somebody go, "I told you that would work," and you're like, and like, what do you? And you say, "What would you like to hear?" And they're like, "More stories, more songs," and they don't want covers,
right?
Which is a thing that happens a lot, here in the States. You're playing a sports bar and everybody's like, "Hey, are you going to play Plush by Stone Temple Pilots?" And you're like, no. What have I been doing that suggests that would even sound good?
Right.
So, and they want more of what you do.
Yeah.
And being told over and over again, we don't want to hear covers. We can hear those on the radio.
Yep.
Why would we go out to hear music and hear what we already know?
That's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's such a refreshing take on it. And there are places where that happens in the States, but it isn't typically in a sports bar.
Right. I think though the story about that bar in Mechelen is so, I think it's relatable for a lot of people, because I think many people have been in a situation where they're passionate about something, they're committed to it. It's whether it's a career or something less than that, whatever it is, and they have times where it becomes so challenging for them that they start to feel like maybe it's not worth it, and then something happens that reminds them, oh yeah, this is why I do this. Now I remember.
This is why I do this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's things like that happen all over the place. And my wife gives me a hard time because we're kind of at the point where we don't really go anywhere without bumping into somebody I know.
Yeah.
To a hysterical level. Like we landed in Dublin, and we're walking to try to get some lunch. And somebody from across the street, "Hey, Bobbo." And Tracy's like, "Are you kidding me?" And I look over, and it's the lead singer, Andrew, from the band Wolfmother from Australia.
Oh, no kidding.
And yeah. And so we go get a drink, and we're hanging out, and his phone rings, and it's Noel Gallagher calling him.
Oh, wow.
and Andrew turns to me, and he goes, "You want to go see Noel Gallagher in the High Flying Birds tomorrow night?" I'm like, "Sure." So he turns back to Noel Gallagher. He's like, "Yeah, I need 2 more passes." So we go watch the show, like from the side of the stage, and then Tracy and I go backstage, and we're laughing because we're eating Noel Gallagher's pot roast, and but those sorts of things happen, and they're bizarre and they're weird, and at the same time, last year I was with my mother in Massachusetts. And I was like, I've never been to Nova Scotia. And so we just drove to Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
And she went to bed early, and I found an open mic in Halifax. And I went down and I played a couple songs of this open mic and started talking to the people there and became friends with this guy, Tony Trimpler, and his band, Callahan. And, he's like, before you leave town tomorrow, come over and have breakfast and we'll chat. And so I go back to the hotel room, and, the next morning my mother says, where are we going for breakfast? And I'm like, we're going to this guy's house that I met last night. And she's, what are we doing? What's that now? And we just go to this guy's house, and he makes coffee and eggs and bacon for us. And we sit there and we chat about the world and what's going on. And it's, the guitar opening up the door, but, being a decent guy and, being somebody that listens and asks questions keeps the door open.
Absolutely.
And that's how the world gets smaller.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Absolutely. If you're just joining us, we're talking with Bobbo Byrnes. The album is Too Many Miles, and the book is Too Many Miles on the Road with an Unofficial Rock and Roll Goodwill Ambassador. I do want to ask you about this before we run out of time, too.
Sure.
Being an American overseas, when you're overseas and you're touring,
yes.
What is that like in terms of, is there, obviously, I'm sure people ask you a lot of questions about America, and do you ever feel,
oh yeah,
do you ever feel like you have to sort of, I don't know, almost like answer for America in a way? What are those conversations like? Because our standing in the world is not necessarily favorable to everybody, in a lot of ways, I guess is one way of putting it.
That is absolutely exactly what it is.
Yeah. Okay. He has left the Microsoft Teams room. Live radio, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, he's back. All right. I clicked admit. Bobbo, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, thank goodness, because I really wanted to hear your answer to this. I'm glad we were able to get you back. Yeah, technology will fail us at times, but I'm glad you're back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we all know musicians that will say, "Oh, I don't talk about politics," and that's fine and good if that's what your thing is. But especially when you're overseas, people there want to know who they're supporting, and they want to know where you stand on things. And if you're a musician overseas and somebody asks you a question, and it'll be a very pointed question, and you say, "Oh, I don't really talk about politics," then they assume that you're, yeah. And so it will cut off communication.
That makes sense.
So the idea that you can sort of float through Europe without having an opinion isn't real.
Right.
You can do it, but you won't have real conversations. You'll have surface conversations.
Well, so that's interesting. So do you think your openness and your willingness to engage on that, do you think that plays a role in why you've been able to build such a following there?
Yes.
Okay.
100%. And because especially in Germany, they do a great job of teaching their history, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And so, World War II is one of the last things that seemingly everyone can agree on who the bad guys were.
Right.
And, I was playing a house concert, and the guy told me this incredible story about how his grandfather defected from the German army and just didn't want to be a cook for the Nazis because he was conscripted into service, and how he walked from Stalingrad back to the border of Amsterdam, and that's a long way to walk.
Yeah,
in case you don't know.
Yeah,
and when folks there have relatives that fought against the fascism of their day, they really want to tell you about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't think that you would be open or appreciative to that story, they don't open up.
Okay. That makes sense.
And so I've had a number of people there tell me about the White Rose Society, which was in 1943, I believe it was, and it was in Munich, and it was 4 college students who were pleading with their fellow Germans to see what was going on. It was like they didn't have Facebook, but they had a secret like mimeograph machine in a basement of a place, and they were printing pamphlets and sort of distributing them, secretly distributing these pamphlets around college campuses and stuff.
Wow.
And they printed 7 of these pamphlets. The 7th one actually ended up in the hands of the United States government, and we printed off millions of copies of it and dropped them over Europe.
Oh, okay.
And the 7th, the 4 college students got caught distributing the 7th pamphlet, and they were executed like 3 days later.
Wow.
Yeah. And the 2 of them that are most famous are Sophie and Hans Scholl. And they're celebrated today as being like some of the best Germans of the 20th century.
Yeah.
Like unanimously across the country, there's schools named after them, there's streets named after them, all this sort of stuff. And so that's a story that Germans have trusted me with. And so I've taken that story and brought it back to the United States, and I tour with a White Rose on stage, and I tell the story about 4 college students, and standing up to the fascism of the day and what that cost them. And I have had some pushback from people in the audience here in the United States saying I shouldn't be talking about that because they equate it to what's going on from their side.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't like it.
Right.
And at the same time, I was in Tempe, Arizona, and I was telling the story to a room full of people that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And that can be a little bit scary as well.
Yes. Definitely.
And I saw two people at the bar being really, really animated when I was telling the story, and I couldn't really tell what was going on. After the show, they came up to me and they said, when you were talking about the White Rose Society, we thought, there's no way he's talking about that White Rose Society. And then you were. And the woman looks at me and she goes, I'm a distant relative of Sophie and Hans Scholl.
Wow.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? And she takes out her phone, and she's been to Munich, she's been to the White Rose sites and all this other stuff. And we have this whole long conversation. And she finally says to me, I've been too nervous to speak up about what's going on. But seeing you talk tonight to a room full of people you didn't know and bring this up, and knowing what my cousins went through, I'm going to start using my voice to speak up more. And
Jesus.
it's all of a sudden like, this is why I do this.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Yes, there's music and there's stories and there's fun and it's a good time, but it's all about the humanity and what we carry forward. And that's what I'm just trying to do.
It's all about the humanity and what we carry forward. Absolutely. I love that. Jeez, I've got that story. I've got chills right now. Wow. Oh, well, Bobbo Byrnes, the time runs short, my friend. I'm really glad. I'm glad we had you on today, though. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I recommend the book, Too Many Miles on the Road with an Unofficial Rock and Roll Goodwill Ambassador by Bobbo Byrnes. And the album is great as well that goes with it, also called Too Many Miles. Where should people go? And we are going to hit that track, Massachusetts, in just a moment. But where should people go, Bobbo, to keep up with everything that you're doing? Where would you like people to know online that they can go to?
Well, I am the only Bobbo Byrnes in the world. So if you have a Google machine, you could just put on Bobbo Byrnes, and it'll take you there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We will let you go, my friend. We're going to hit this track, Massachusetts. And that's a perfect way to end the segment, I think. And but thank you.
Matt, thank you so much. And I've really enjoyed this. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we will do this again in the future, I'm sure. All right. Take care.
Wonderful.
All right.
Take care, Matt.
Bye-bye. All right. There he goes, the great Bobbo Byrnes. And wow, that was, I literally got chills at the end there, that story he was telling us. That's just amazing. The book is great, but I mean, hearing him actually explaining all of this, though, is like, wow. So we're going to close out the segment with this track. This is another great song from the album Too Many Miles, and then we'll kind of come back and wrap up really quickly. But here it is. This song is called Massachusetts, and this is Bobbo Byrnes.
Massachusetts is a funny word when you're drunk. Well, I was in some kind of a funk. Made me wanna see you again. I dialed you 3 times before it went through. I didn't know what I would ask you. Just trying to remember the song. Oh, but you knew it all along. You said, tie your troubles across my shoulders and wrap your arms around this old heart of mine. Close your eyes now, pretend we're no older, and wrap your arms around this old heart of mine. You sold all of your LPs, a down payment for an SUV, but it's all over now, baby blue. It wasn't much, but it was all you had. The records, they were all scratched.